Hello, how's it going? Today on the Implicit Show, we've got a special guest and we're going to talk about some really important subjects. And so I'm really excited to get into it. But before that, here's the intro video. Tapping into the true potential of the human spirit. This is Humanity Empowered. This is the Implicit Show. Hello, what is up? What is up? What is up? I am your host today, Bren, and I'm super excited about today's episode. I always love when we get guests in here to kind of build more of a conversation. And I'm excited about today's guest. Her name is Jennifer, and I met her back at the TEDx event. She was another one of the speakers, and I was really moved by her passion for what she was talking about. You know, the message that she had to share was important, and not only that, she knew it was important. It was really something that she was passionate about, and I could see that passion. You guys know me for being like a super crazy passionate guy, so I thought that was super cool. But anyways, I'm gonna give Jennifer Pate a chance to introduce herself right now. Jennifer, how you doing?
I'm good, Bren. Thanks so much for having me on the show. My name is Jennifer Pate, and basically, for want of a better role, I call myself a water advocate. I've been working on issues of plastics and toxics in our waterways for about 4 years now. That started with a journey sailing across the Atlantic Ocean, and I basically brought that back home here to the Great Lakes. And so I've been getting people out on the water, helping them understand the complexity of the issue, but breaking it down in a way that means that they can go from being a part of the problem to a part of the solution pretty quickly.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I really like, the purpose behind what you do. It's really something that's meaningful and something we need right now. So could you tell us a little bit about your story, maybe growing up? What developed this passion for water and cleaning the waters that you have right now?
Yeah, for sure. So I was actually born in the Great Lakes region, and I used to have a cottage, very typical Ontario lifestyle. Spend our summers at the cottage on the Great Lakes, or actually on Lake Huron, outside of Bayfield. And then my family and I moved to England when I was 11. So I actually spent 15 years there. Did high school there. I did both my degrees over there, and so my background is basically environmental science and geography, and fascinated by is human environment interaction. What does the environment mean to people? How do people react to it? How do they relate to it? And obviously, living internationally, I had an awesome chance to travel a lot and sort of see different cultures and sort of see the diversity of ways that we understand the world around us. Really, until later, after I'd done quite a few different expeditions, that I had this chance to sail across the Atlantic Ocean, and I had actually never sailed before. And I basically signed up to do this crazy trip and went on board as the filmmaker. And we were actually a team of all women, as I said, researching plastics and toxics, not only in the oceans and our waterways, but also in our own bodies. So, really starting a dialogue around the interconnections between human and environmental health, which is such an important conversation that we need to have, especially now. We're starting to really see the fact that whatever we put out into the environment, we get back. And so that was kind of the conversation that we wanted to start. And I mean, I've always loved the water, and to Canada. I actually moved to Bayfield, Ontario from London, England. So a little drop in population in terms of who lives around here, but it's been the most incredible experience, and actually set up an outdoor recreation park. And so I teach environmentally friendly water sports and environmental education. So it's been a really interesting path, and everything that I do has focused on water just naturally. So I think, especially yesterday being World Water Day, people ask me all the time, like, why do you care so much about water? And I'm like, 70% of the planet is water, and we're 60% water. Like, why would you not care about water? But I think we just get so disconnected, our everyday lives, they take us in different places and different ways, and we just get distracted and disconnected. So I'm excited to be working on a lot of projects that really help people reconnect to the environment, reconnect to the water. Started an organization here called Love Your Greats, which is what I talked about at the TEDx event in Chatham. And yeah, looking forward to talking more about it here.
That's awesome. That's really
Awesome.
cool.
That's really cool.
I think we got an
I
echo
think we got an
coming
echo
from your end.
coming from your end.
Oh, sorry.
I'm echoing.
I'm echoing.
Anyways, I just wanted to ask, What would you
What
say,
would you
or what do you
say,
think the reason
or
is a lot
what
of
do you think
people are
the
so
reason is a lot of people are
disconnected
so disconnected
from these kind of
I think
like
from these
that
kind
subjects?
of like subjects and stuff?
Yeah, I think it has a lot to do with our lifestyles, just how busy we are. Unless, and especially living in the city, it's harder to get back to nature. I mean, where I live here, it's really easy. It's outside my door. I can literally walk out my front door and walk for 3 hours and not really run into anything. So I'm quite lucky that way. But I think, we're living so much of our lives online a lot of the time. We're really spending a lot of time at our desks, a lot of times at our computers. And I think we've just kind of lost, as much as we've become more connected, we're disconnected to the things that actually make us human. And that's getting back out into the environment, back out in nature, and really realizing that it doesn't matter. You could even be like an indoor person, but I guarantee, like after half an hour outside, you're going to feel a million times better.
Yeah,
It's
for
just
sure.
Yeah, for sure.
it's just, yeah, time spent inside.
There's research done on
There's
that too.
research done on
How
that too. How
sorry, it's hard to talk because
sorry,
there's
it's
this
hard to
echo.
talk
So I'm
because
like, what? Am I talking right?
am I
I
talking
can't
right?
hear it on my side, so
That's so weird.
That's so weird.
Let us know in the comment section if
Let
you're
us know in
hearing
the
an
comment
echo.
section if you're hearing an echo.
But anyways, I just wanted to say,
Say,
it's interesting how
it's
we are
interesting
so
how we are so
disconnected from these
disconnected
kind
from
of
these
things
kind
because
of
we don't
things
see it.
because we don't see it.
We just we're in our bedroom, we're
In
in
our
our house,
bedroom, we're
whatever,
in our
and
house,
then we
whatever,
throw away our
and then we
garbage,
throw
and then it
away our
just
garbage, and then it just
disappears, right? And
disappears,
we
right?
just get this magic
This
water coming
magic
from our
water
taps, and we
from
don't
our
really
taps, and
know
we don't
where it
really
comes
know
from or
where it
what's
comes
going
from
on
or
with
what's
it.
going on with
And
it.
so there's a lot of
And so
disconnect there for
there's a lot of
sure.
disconnect there for sure.
well, and I think the complexity too with the issue of plastics and toxics out there in the waterways is that the majority of it's invisible. Because plastic, we might see things wash up on beaches that are larger pieces of debris, but the majority of what's out there is what we like to call microplastics or nanoplastics. And so when you look out into the water, whether it's the ocean, a river, a lake, you can't really see it. And so you can still even go out into the environment and not see the impacts of what we're doing. But yet we're seeing study upon study come out saying, if you're eating seafood, on average, you're ingesting 11,000 pieces of microplastic per year. So we're really starting to sort of, in terms of studies and mainstream media, we're starting to see that invisible pollution become visible. And what I'm trying to do is help people navigate that realization and help them lead healthy lives as much as we possibly can, and also tackle the issue. Don't be afraid to engage. It's so easy, with these big environmental issues, because they're so scary and they're so overwhelming, to just completely shut off and be like, nope, I'm just going to ignore it, I'm not going to deal with it. And there are days where we all feel like that, but it's going to take all of us to solve the problem. And so I'm trying to find ways that I can engage people in things, but also making them meaningful and helping them engage with the environment without being scared about it. So it's a journey.
Yeah, for sure. So how
For
would you
sure. So
explain
how
the
would
whole
you explain the
situation
whole
to somebody, well,
situation
the
to
plastic
somebody, well,
pollution
the plastic
situation,
pollution
who's
situation,
never really heard
who's
about it or
never really heard about it,
haven't been introduced to what's going on?
going on?
So the easiest way to explain it is that, obviously, in terms of plastic, all the plastic that we've ever produced still exists on the planet somewhere. It never disappears. It basically just breaks down smaller and smaller over time. So we have, say, a plastic bottle, it gets thrown away, it gets washed out into the river, the lakes. Degradation and physical degradation of waves and just general movement, it breaks down smaller and smaller until the point where it's invisible. And what we're finding for animals to tell the difference between what is food and what is basically plastic or poison. And so they're ingesting these fragments and then they're making their way back to us through the food chain. So it's one of those sort of illustrations of that environment human interconnection that I was talking about earlier, that we're not separate from the environment, and whatever we throw out comes back. So I really, try and encourage people to think of things from like a land to water approach, but from water to land as well. And so that's the basic relationship. That's the basic situation that's happening right now in terms of plastic in our waterways. Complex, if you want to talk about There's accumulation zones in the oceans because of ocean currents. They're called gyres. So for a while, they used to call them plastic or like garbage islands. And there was this sort of myth that was happening that you could sail your boat out into the middle of the ocean, step off the boat onto this plastic island. But it doesn't exist like that because obviously all those pieces of plastic are tiny and invisible. So it's basically becoming this sort of plastic smog across the ocean surface, but also sinking in the water column. And I mean, if we talk, more in depth about the Great Lakes, higher density of these microplastics here in the Great Lakes than in any of those ocean gyres. And I mean, that's scary, but it's not surprising given population density, density of industry, and the circulation of the Great Lakes, how long it takes for water to move from one to the other and actually eventually go out to the Atlantic. So, what I sort of encourage people to think of is look at your daily life. Do you come across plastic? And the truth is, a lot. We really do have this sort of throwaway culture. We're so used to, especially single-use plastic, things that you're going to use for 90 seconds, but might last 90 to 400 to 500 years when it's out in the environment. So I think it's just about shift in mindset, really moving away from single use to reusing things, using alternatives to plastic, like we used to do, glass or wool clothing instead of microfiber clothing. So it's a big issue, and there's a lot of different facets to it. But really trying to get people to understand that there are entry points, and you can kind of start to delve into the issue without getting too overwhelmed.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
So
for sure. So
one of the questions I'd
one of
have
the
is,
questions I'd
somebody
have is,
who
somebody
they
who
get it at this
they get
point,
it
they
at
know
this
it's a
point, they know
problem, they
it's a
want to do
problem, they want to
something to
do
help, something to
something to
change the
help, something to
situation,
change the
but they don't really know
situation.
where to
They
start
don't
or
really
what to
know where
do.
to start or what
I
to
know some of
do.
the tips you were
I know some
saying.
of the tips you
It's great to take a look at your daily life, how much plastic you're using, find where you're using plastic, and maybe try to replace it for other things. What other examples or things would you tell somebody who wants to get more involved?
were involved.
Yeah, so I think after that sort of like first analysis of kind of your daily life or what you use on an annual basis in your household, whether it's, you know, food, it's, what you're using when you go out to restaurants and that kind of thing. Like simple thing is straws, just saying no straw, please. They're really simple things. And then if you want to take it steps further, I mean, that's awesome. One great way is kind of engaging with things like petitions. So we actually had a really great ban of microbeads here in Canada and the US over the last year, which is really exciting. I mean, it takes time for these things to happen. So actually, it's a phase out of microbeads starting next year. But that's a really exciting. And bans can be extremely effective. So that's definitely one way that people can get involved. And I imagine there's going to be a lot of petitions coming up about microfibers because basically over 70% of the microplastics that we have here in the Great Lakes are microfibers. So these are pieces of plastic that come from your clothes. Things like fleece, polyester, even recycled plastic clothing, which seemed like a really good idea, a great way of using plastic, but actually it just contributes to the problem. Is having conversations with other people about it, really starting to, if you feel really passionate about it, you've done what you can as an individual, follow along in the same process, encourage them, whether that's encouraging just your family, maybe your friends. That honestly, conversation is a huge game changer when it comes to this kind of thing. And I think if we can feel like we're a part of a wider community, that we're not so alone. I think a lot of the time when we tackle big issues, like helpless, number one, but also very lonely. And I think it's really about tapping into a lot of the community around this. There's so many organizations working on this, so many community groups. And as I said, I set up an organization called Love Your Greats to host an annual Love Your Greats Day. And this year it's going to be on the 12th of August, and we're encouraging people to get out across the Great Lakes or even across Canada, whatever's great to you. Get out on the water, take a water sample from microplastics, but also just get outside, do a shoreline cleanup, and just engage with people around you because support is integral to continuing, people to act on big issues like this.
Yeah, for sure. I mean,
For sure.
it makes so much sense to find some sort of support group or somebody, an organization, so that, like you said, when you're trying to tackle big issues like this, it can feel lonely sometimes. I mean, I know anytime I discover something new, I learn something new, and I want to share it, I go out and I find people like friends, family, and be like, hey, I just found out about this issue. It's really important. I think it's something you'll want to know about. And it helps start a conversation at least, so it's not such a subject that people don't think about or people don't ever want to talk about. And so that's super interesting. So where do you think the world's moving forward? How do you think things are going to be in the next year, 5 years, 10 years, plastic wise? Are we gonna tackle this situation? I mean, obviously it's a process. It's something that we're really going to have to work on. But how do you see it right now?
Right now, I actually feel quite a bit of optimism. I mean, the last 4 years that I've been working on it, we've gone from nobody talking about it to it being in mainstream media. There's so many different organizations working on it. It's on the UN agendas. It's everywhere. We're really starting to understand that this is a global issue that needs global, regional, and local solutions. And there are people call to action. And so I feel good about it. I feel like, we're definitely moving in the right direction. And the more that, we can spread word, have conversations with one another, activate and motivate communities, the better. I mean, we are theoretically, if we don't change our behaviors, if we just continue with the status quo, we are going to have more plastic than fish in the oceans by 2050 that I want to be a part of. I want to be a part of the change. And there are a lot of people who feel the same. So I think if we can just continue to motivate each other, I have a lot of hope for the future. As I said, we've already seen huge changes in terms of bans coming in around microbeads here in North America. We're seeing nations across the world who are banning plastic bags as entire countries. I mean, that's amazing. Like, I couldn't have imagined that happening 4 years ago. So if that's where we are now after 4 years, I feel a lot of hope for the next couple of years that this momentum will keep going, that word will keep spreading, and people will be taking action.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah,
I like
cool.
that a lot.
I like that a
Have you
lot.
ever have you seen I had a friend send me a video recently of a person who lives a no waste lifestyle. So for like 2 years, she had just this little mason jar full of garbage. She's like, that's all the garbage I've used in 2 years. Do you think maybe that might be the future where more of us are trying to adopt different lifestyles, maybe like a no waste lifestyle or different stuff like that?
Certainly a future that I'd like to see. I think the more that we can really shift into this sort of circular economy, a lot of it comes from product design, if there are things that we can use again and again and again, but also in terms of, really reducing our waste as individuals, as households. It's totally doable. And I think that's why, it's a tough mindset transition, but it is doable. And we've got people, as you said, you saw a video of this girl who's been doing it for 2 years. I mean, that's amazing. Good for her. I can't say that all my waste for the last 2 years fit in a mason jar, but I'm certainly doing, a lot to change my lifestyle into a way that's more sustainable. And I think the more that we can shift towards that kind of lifestyle, the better. It is doable.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to
Yeah, and
be
it
as
doesn't have.
as extreme as like what she was doing. But even like you said, just making those small shifts of maybe not doing straws. Or like I know when I go out to eat food and they're like, "Oh, do you want a plastic fork? Do you want a bag?" I'm like, "No, just give me my food." And so, just small decisions I think are what's gonna make the big difference down the line, right? For sure. So, are there any last words on topic of plastic pollution? Something you want to tell people, maybe to help them to take action or make a difference in their own life and in the world?
I mean, I say to people, please understand that each and every one of you are change makers. You have a sphere of influence that you don't know how far it goes. I always say 95% of the change that you inspire, you're never going to see. You just have to believe it's there. A conversation can completely change someone's mind. They're going to act on it. So I really encourage people, if you're passionate about this kind of thing, which hopefully you will be, spread the word, have conversations with people, and just act. There's lots of communities out there, whether it's through social media, whether it's in your community. just start to tap into a lot of the organizations that are already doing work on this and get involved. There's lots of different ways. And also join us on the 12th of August across the Great Lakes for Love Your Greats Day. Our website is loveyourgreats.com. And send us your pictures. We've got a hashtag Love Your Greats. Doesn't matter what time of year, just show us why you love your backyard, and we'll share it.
Love it, Jennifer. So where can people find out more about you, what you're doing? They can connect with you or connect with the other projects that you're a part of.
Yeah, for sure. So they can find me through my personal website, which is jenniferpate.com. As I mentioned already, loveyourgreats.com. You can connect with me through there. Also, my outdoor recreation park is windmill-lake.ca. So there's lots of different ways. And if you're ever in Bayfield, Ontario, come pay me a visit.
Awesome, guys. So you heard that. Make sure you guys take action on some of the things she was saying. There's definitely some some issues out there that we don't think about or that we don't even really see. And if we could, by small lifestyle choices or something that we could do in our everyday life, make a difference in one way or another, then that's amazing, right? You're making a difference. So I love that. If you guys want to support what we're doing at Implicit, you could go to patreon.com/implicit and get all sorts of cool stuff and rewards and stuff there. So I want to thank you guys. I want to thank Jennifer for hopping on the show. Make sure you guys connect with her. Peace. See you, Jennifer.